And I started to really consider that. So again, it was back to the drawing board, and I was talking with my family and close friends at the time, and what type of direction do I make? I'm still young, but how do I go about doing this? And then an opportunity arose. The Aboriginal Leadership Institute in Winnipeg was offering a youth boot camp at the time. So it's not like your typical boot camp where you might get the idea of guards and stuff and being under guard. It was nothing like that. It was more business, education, and cultural based. But I had taken the opportunity on my own to pursue it because I was at a point where I knew I needed some new direction. And it seemed like from what was being advertised in this program, it was going to do exactly that. So in my 3 weeks there, I had been introduced to the campuses that were available in Winnipeg and some of the programs and courses and some of what campus life would be like. And I had just really taken that opportunity. I applied to the University of Winnipeg, an undergraduate study, and was notified shortly after that I had been accepted. And I began my post-secondary studies in 2002 at the University of Winnipeg. I went there with the ambition, still a high interest in the arts, in theater, but realizing from listening to peers that had gone a similar route in previous, also speaking with academic advisors there, that the difference I was going to face at the university was, although they have set curriculums, I was going to be able to choose my path of study and really tailor what it is I wanted to do to bring it out in the courses to better strengthen my strengths, I guess. So it was quite different because in university, what I found right off the hop was there were courses that were specific to Aboriginal peoples or Aboriginal issues, or courses that included a large component on that field of study or that course particular. How does it relate to Aboriginal people? So there was a large Aboriginal component. So my first year, being true to my heart still in that theater aspect, I took a first-year theater course. I also had a high interest in writing, and it seems like being Aboriginal, it just kind of goes hand in hand with that. There's a lot of interest in the arts, and for me it seemed a little bit natural. So I took a writing course, which is also mandatory, but I really enjoyed it. And a course that I needed to take, and I wanted to challenge myself, because our family also has a bit of justice background, was some criminal justice courses. And believe it or not, it is the course that I took to challenge myself. Again, I didn't get through it with an A, not even a B, but I made it through, and it was enough for me to realize that if there were other courses being offered in this program or on campus that would have challenged me or could challenge me the same way and help me better understand some of these things that I never really had an answer to through going through elementary or high school, then it was certainly something I was going to do. And in my last year of training, we look at it that way in theater, I actually closed off with a paper based on my experiences in the whole theater bit and moving beyond that to pursue a new interest to challenge myself because the interest in my love for the film would always still be there and remain. And maybe further down the road, all of these experiences that I'm taking on now, I may be able to relate those into film at some point, at some time in my life. So it's just remaining patient with that, and it's always going to be on the back burner. It's never really been thrown in the dark. So it was in taking the criminal justice courses, I really started to look at the situation I was in high school and the way I had felt then and where I could have ended up if I actually had thrown in that towel. A lot of my training, a lot of my experiences in that young age, junior high and high school, like I mentioned, we didn't have an Aboriginal curriculum, but what existed were stereotypes, misunderstandings, things that we heard on an average day, and just general misconceptions of one another. So taking these classes really started to bring that out. And in 2003, I had chosen a bulk of my courses, actually, which pertain to Aboriginal law, Aboriginal rights, and Canadian politics, getting a better understanding of the Constitution and how we fit into those things. And it was through those studies that I really started to develop a greater understanding of some of what I had actually already picked up from my family. why they had been so involved politically in so many movements throughout my young age, and where it was starting to come together for myself. Developing that interest at the same time, I had also become more vocal and more visible in the Métis movement as a youth advocate. I started registering for workshops and seminars any chance I could get, and even being invited there, and started to really build a network. Something I never wanted to do was burn bridges from that point on. And it's really gone a long way, making connections with people and just taking every chance that you get and the opportunities, taking the advice from other people and listening. I don't want to say you can't go wrong, but even in a situation where a choice may not become favorable, there are still these people that have experienced all these types of things that can really help you come around. It's kind of like a learning curve. And I kind of balled all of those experiences together and was really, really starting to shine in my pride inside, not on the out. I wasn't worried about what people thought any longer, but I could feel the strength inside growing. And in 2004, I thought, what better way to connect with like-minded people, because I was meeting people on the same level. And what was beautiful about it was a lot of the friendships, 95% of the friendships I made at the University of Winnipeg were with First Nations peoples. And so we had started to really connect on things openly, knowing First Nations and Métis culture, but identifying similar cultural barriers that our peoples have faced. And now we are studying the same things. How are we going to work together to contribute to an overall brighter future for our people and how we fit into this country here in Canada? And I took a shot in the dark. I ran for president. I pursued some nominations, and I ran for president of the Aboriginal Student Council. Shanine had mentioned earlier, this is kind of when our first working experience together. And I was successful in that election. And I really wasn't alone. I hadn't gone out alone at all in that situation. My family was well aware of the whole time leading through it, my concerns, what I had expected, and my fears even. And I mentioned my family has a fairly strong political background, so there was some great advice there as to what to expect. And one of the things where people will try to keep you down, especially in politics. And it's about keeping your head straight, clear mind, keeping your chin up too. And if you know, I have a quote that I've included with the National Aboriginal Role Model Program. And although it's my quote, it is really the advice that has always been given to me, and that is sometimes giving up sounds nice, and people will always criticize the good you do, but be true to yourself, believe in your song, and in me you'll have a Métis brother to help break barriers. And although that's a message that I deliver now, I really see that message in a lot of different people. Even today for a day of inspiration, I may be here on the podium, but it is actually you in the audience that is inspiring me. Because being now 2008, I have yet to complete my Bachelor of Arts. And in 2004, 4 years ago, when I had been first elected to the Aboriginal Student Council, I had also declared my major in Aboriginal self-governance. And because I had been selecting courses that were of interest to me and empowering as well, when the Aboriginal Governance Program had been launched in 2004, I was also able to transfer credit hours into that. So I didn't start from scratch. I had already a bulk of a full academic year into a 3-year program. As the years unfolded from there and my studies were in depth, I was faced with other opportunities that had arisen as well. My fiance and I, we had started a family. So again, times get challenging, but giving up was certainly not something in my vocabulary. It is something I'd moved on from. And reprioritizing was the new move. And although I realize I may not be in a position to finish everything now in this 1 year, there are all sorts of opportunities to make it happen.